Hi guys, and welcome to another video here on the European Gaming League channel. Today, me and Rab, who is joining me for the first time here on the channel. Thank you very much for coming along, Rab. We're going to be discussing sort of the best of the rest. We've talked about the top 10 rosters. Everyone knows about what's going on in LG, Optic, 100 Thieves, but a few you might not be quite caught up on teams further down, teams who will slot into that playoff to get into pools on the Thursday before Vegas. Those sort of teams we're going to talk about there. But first and foremost, Rab, how are you doing? You having a good day, mate? I know we've
I'm very well.
We've been
Thanks.
backwards and forwards trying to get this video sorted out, but we're
Yeah,
eventually
exactly.
here.
Well, it looks like we're finally here. Yeah, so it's great stuff, really. Yeah, excited to be on the channel, and thanks a lot for having me on. And yeah, we'll talk about who is going to be slotting into that kind of pool play qualifier for Vegas. Of course, you got your top 12 teams. Top 12 teams. It's a little bit complicated because if you kept 3 of your team that were top 12 at stage 2 last year, then you get in. Otherwise, it's based on pro points. And then if you're not in the top 12, then the next 8 teams, if you guys aren't aware, are doing I believe it's like a double elimination. So what you'd see at last chance qualifiers. And you win 2 before you lose 2, you get into pools. And I'm pretty sure it's just randomly seeded. So, and then the rest of the teams are going to open. And, obviously this is super important, Tunn, because if you place top 32 at Vegas, you're guaranteed a go at getting into the Pro League. And with only one stage, it's couldn't be more important.
Yeah, Vegas has really become an all or nothing event for everybody, hasn't it? It's one of the things where it's like, we need to perform really well at this event, or else we're going to find ourselves in a little bit of trouble. But just quickly looking at them, obviously you mentioned that there was teams with 3 members who have stayed on. I think top of my head, that's FaZe, New Envy, Red. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, for a lot of the teams, it doesn't really matter. E United as well count for that.
Yes.
But it doesn't really matter for a lot of the top teams that have crazy pro points anyway. And because I think it's randomly seeded within, which pool you get is randomly seeded from like 5 to 8. So the pros can't, they weren't thinking about, we'll pick up this player, we'll drop that guy, so we'll have just this amount of pro points. We'll get into this pool, it'll be a bit better for us. That wasn't a possibility. So
yeah, I think pros have sort of put that out the window and just sort of went with what they feel is more comfortable, because I mean, even if you don't have all those pro points, you've still got a very good chance of, as long as you finish top 32 at the event, which is what everyone's going to be aiming for, then that's where you go from there to potentially qualify for Pro League. But we'll speak about that maybe another time and see how we'll break it down before the event actually comes around. Let's talk about the actual teams who we think are going to be on the cusp of trying to get into these pools and who we think can do well. First and foremost, the new EG team. What are your thoughts on that squad? That's Royalty, Fellow, Gunjar, Lacefield, and Saints.
That's I feel like it's such a leftover squad. It's really interesting because Gunjar and Royalty, they come over from Lightning Pandas, leaving Zotic and Theory behind.
Yeah.
And, Saints and Lacefield, they're really good SMGs, kind of inconsistent to an extent. But, Saints, probably one of the best players to never win champs. But then you look at the team, it's like, is there really much leadership here? And Gunjar's your main assault rifle. How is he going to compete against the best ARs we have in the league? And then as a 5th player, you bring in Felony, and I describe him as kind of a role-based player. He'll do his job in the team, but
he's not setting the world on fire, is he? That's the thing.
No, of course not. It's like they could have had Doug. Apparently, they could have had Sensor instead of Felony, but they got rid of him. And I feel like Doug made way more sense here because this team is not going to be the best in the world on terms of firepower. So surely it would make sense to bring in someone like Sensor who has leadership, especially in 5v5, who has some leadership and also has some winning experience. So I really don't rate these guys personally, but maybe I'll be proven wrong. I don't know.
The one guy that stands out for me on that team is Royalty. I think he was above and beyond Lightning Panda's best player last season. He was one of the main reasons that they were sort of on the cusp of always qualifying and then just sort of falling short. I think that he's a really, really good player, and I think if we can see him bring over how good a World War II player he was over to Black Ops 4, then he could potentially do some things. I mean, we know Saints has been in and around some good placements before. We know Lacefield can do it as well. I think they've got potential, but I think you're right. There's nothing too exciting for me outside of Royalty about that team, and I still think they might qualify for Pro League, but I think they might be one of these teams who could be difficult to get some results for.
Yeah, I think they'll get into Pro League. It's a weird situation with Royalty because we've talked about him for years as being like, oh, this crazy stand-up player. Like, the sensitivity question always comes up, but like, he's obviously crazy talented, and people are saying, oh, this might be his big break on EG. I don't see it like that at all. Like he hasn't slotted in like Abizi has to United. Like, Abizi's straight onto a potential, maybe even top 4 team in the world, you could say. Like it's so we'll have to see how the season goes, but Royalty seems too talented to be stuck on mediocrity his entire career.
Yeah. Well,
but they should make Pro League, as you say.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that'll be their chance to shine. I think United will quickly touch on that of taking a big risk on Abizi, because for all we've seen Abizi put decent performances in. What, did he finish top 12 once with that team he was in?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, they made pools a couple times.
Yeah.
He honestly is such a mental kid. Like watching him play, and Search and Destroy as well is a speciality. And under the guise of Clay and Cap, like it couldn't be any better, could it? To try and
get a young player. Yeah, he's in the right environment, isn't he? Definitely.
Yeah, that's a superb opportunity for him, and I hope he makes the most of it.
Okay, let's move on to another team who don't have a organization that we, of course, can share, maybe. But, I think let's talk Blast, Chino, Decimate, Vicento, and Ricky. I quite like this team. I think if Chino can bring over what we've seen of him in World War II, obviously he won a couple of championships at 2, was it? So moving into this team with him, the rest of the squad have got good potential with players like Decimate, who maybe had a slow year last year. Vicento, can do business, plenty of experience. Ricky with plenty of experience. Blast, maybe not as much as the others, but another good player. I think this team could actually be all right.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. You've got Blast and Ricky were teaming on Complexity before, and Blast and Decimate have known each other in the SD community, I think, for years. They make sense as a team. Chino's going to get along with anyone.
Yeah.
And it's pretty, we've seen what the meta's like in Black Ops 4. Chino and Ricky generally better with assault rifles. Vicento as well. I think he was even using the main AR at the end of the year for Echo Fox. For some reason, they took Akra off that role. So it kind of makes sense. Also, you look at the pro point situation for where this team would sit. They're comfortably in getting into pool play for Vegas with this squad. So and that's always a starting point, right? Because you've just got to do the best you can, get into the league, and then from there you can make roster changes as you please. But that's the first goal of all these guys.
Yeah, because I suppose if you're in pools, you're automatically in the qualifier to get yourself to Pro League. So, I mean, that makes sense from that aspect as well. But yeah, I think it's a decent little team. I'm not too surprised to being put together. I maybe want to see a bit more from Ricky this year. I wouldn't say he had a standout year by his standards last year. So, so we'll see what he can do. Let's move on. There's another couple of teams that we want to talk about here. So we've got GodRx, Theory, Exotic, Panda, and Parasite. It's a strange team for me, and it's I don't know if they'll make Pro League.
I think that's an interesting call actually, because when you look a little bit further down the list, there are some not exactly big names, but especially with the European guys. Guys that you often overlook, and people that have been playing the game 24/7 since it's been out.
Yeah.
And often they'll have something of a different style, and even getting to Vegas, they might have something of, different ideas and different weapons that they think might be good, especially in a game that's, so many things seem viable. But talking about the team, like Parasite, Panda, and GodRx are on the Ghost team, right? So, and then you bring in Theory. I'm not going to lie, Theory's a solid player, but it seems like, considering he won the 2 events at the start of World War II, it just seems like you bring him in for the pro points, because if, he's got a lot of pro points on him, and that puts this team over the cusp, as it currently stands, to get into pools, which, it's a big deal. Zodic is also a pretty good player, but, I don't think they're going to be spectacular. I do really rate GodRx, though, as an SMG.
Yeah.
But does seem pretty lackluster, right? It's just, I don't know.
I think they might potentially struggle for Pro League. I mean, as you said, there's a couple of good European teams in and amongst these teams who could potentially be getting there. I mean, I mean, we're going to talk about them in a second, but you got teams like Reedy's team, you got theorise team, Team Sween, Heretics, people like Mind Freak, Tainted Minds, who are all going to be competing for those last spots. You would imagine they're all around that like 16 to 24, 12 to 16 sort of rating, you would say. And that team's going to have to compete with teams like that, and it's of course going to be difficult for them.
Yeah, for sure. But, at the same time, you could say that they're based in the States. They're getting the practice from pretty solid North American teams. And to be honest, you never really know how it's going to work out at Vegas. And one of the problems I think that the European scene might have this year is they've got no Red Reserve. They've got no Reciprocity. They've got no Splice to practice against. Like their best competition is, I guess, Mad Cat's team, unless they find an organization that can fund them to the States as well. So... it's not looking great for the second tier of European Call of Duty. That's how I see it.
Yeah. It's okay at the moment because Red and Reciprocity are still over.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I think these sort of teams won't be scrimming Red and Reciprocity that much. I think while Red and Reciprocity are over, they're going to probably scrim each other. They might extend.
That makes the most sense.
Yeah, scrimming against like Reedy's team. Heretics have always been a good online team.
Yeah,
so they get scrimmed against as well. So they'll probably stay within their own bubble and scrim each other. So the outside teams are going to have to do their best. I mean, Team Sweden, etc. I'll have a go, but we're thinking about like the Real's team. Are they going to scrim them? Are they going to scrim Brain's team? Are they going to scrim against Louis CM and co? I mean, these guys are going to have to play against each other and figure the game out from there. And then we'll see how they go. We'll talk about them in a second. But let's talk about E6 for just a second because they're just outside the points, as are Heretics and a few others, of getting to that last chance qualifier to get to pools at Vegas. So that's Diabolic Frosty, who's come up from Halo, General, Cade, and Kismet. Now, on the outside, that's an all-right team, but they've taken a big risk on Frosty.
It's a crazy exciting team, I think. Just because of Frosty, General was okay. He was really good in like the Jetpack games. This year he wasn't so good. Diabolic, I really rated him in Black Ops 3. Hasn't really done much since. Kismet was honestly really strong towards the end of World War II. Kind of had his breakout. Like he really showed up at the Lance Charts qualifier. So him and Frosty are the real unknown prospects on this team. I kind of feel like, I don't know that much about Halo, but I think that Frosty is probably a crazy talented player, and give him a few months, right? So when Hook come back from Halo into World War II, it took him a couple of months to get accustomed again to the game. And at the end of the game, he was one of the best players. But at the start of the year, he wasn't so good. And you'd expect the transition period to be even longer for a guy like Frosty. So I feel like this team is just going to end up being a stepping stone for him. If
he's any good, that's the thing.
Okay, if he's any good, that is true. Yeah, I'm taking the word of the Halo community, I guess, of what they think about him and his achievements in the past. So I think it'll end up. I don't know if they'll end up making pools. I don't think they'll make the league. I don't know. I don't think they'll make the league, but I think Frosty will end up being in the league by the end of the year. I think he'll sneak his way in somewhere if he shows himself.
Yeah. We'll see, because Enigma 6 have taken a big risk here, because if you look at their pro points, they're not far off making the last chance qualifier to, of course, maybe have an opportunity, and he will have 0 pro points. I mean, he might play a couple of GBs for some, but realistically,
I think it is 0, to be honest.
It might just be 0. So I think it's going to be difficult for him, for that team. Frosty might have be a talent, but he's got so much to learn in a short space of time. So I'm interested to see how he does. I think you're right to say that, we give him an adjustment period, but the thing is, everything is based on that first event. So that adjustment period has to happen quickly.
And is General really the guy to teach him the ropes, I guess?
Yeah.
It makes sense that the teams further up wouldn't take a risk on this guy, because if he wasn't getting into one of the teams right at the top, then it'd be too risky for them to give up the potential pro points.
Yeah.
But, it's on him to prove himself, really. I don't see this roster as a whole doing anything crazy.
Yeah. Let's quickly brush over a few more. So there's Mind Freak. Of course, they've lost Dens, and they've had to add a 5th. So Excite and Luca come into this team. Excite, he was on another Australian team. Top of my head, can't remember.
He was on Taboo, right? Last season.
Yeah, he was on Taboo. So obviously it's Buzzo, Excite, Fighter, Luca, and Shocks. They're just on the cusp of making pro pools just off the back of pro points, but they will obviously be in that last chance qualifier to make it. I'd expect them to make it in. Would you, Rab?
Yeah, I think so. People have been gassing up Luca so much on Twitter, the Australian scene, and we know how good Excite was. Excite was when he joined this team.
Yeah,
and I think that Buzzo and Fighter are, not exactly up to standard for the average player in the Pro League. I'd put it that way. I think Shox is superb.
Yeah.
But maybe someone like Buzzo and veteran experience of Fighter is really important in getting Luca up to scratch, I guess. I think they'll be fine for pools. They've got too much talent, and there's no way that it goes 5v5 and we don't see at least one Australian team in Pro League. I don't mean pools, by the way. I guess pools as well, but I mean Pro League in general.
Yeah, they could definitely reach one of those two. Quickly over the European teams as well. We've got Reedy's team in there. Pretty decent lineup, I think. Denza, Hoki, Reedy, Vortex. Actually, they wouldn't have finished top 12, so they won't automatically get put in, of course. But so we got Denza and Nevo joining Hoki and Reedy and Vortex.
Yeah, this is like the Epsilon team. I wonder if they'll actually end up on Epsilon. It's interesting. I really rate Denza. I'm not so sure on Nevo so much. We did see a little bit from him at Champs, but I think maybe there's better amateur players in Europe. Maybe these guys know something I don't. Definitely do.
I think the thing is with him, he's a very, very good S&D player. So I think that's something they maybe wanted to add to their arsenal.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
On paper, it's a pretty good S&D team. So I think they could be really banking on winning some S&Ds in that roster.
I'm not going to lie. Epsilon's S&D last season was absolutely woeful.
Yeah,
like they had no clue what they were doing. I never saw them play trades or anything. And this year it might make more sense. Like if the meta shifts towards just heavy stacks, which is what people are playing right now, then that actually might benefit these guys a lot. So
yeah.
I don't know. They've done it in the past. This, like Vortex and Hawkey placed top 3 at Anaheim in Infinite Warfare.
Yeah.
People seem to forget about that.
Yeah, that's very true. I think Reedy's an alright S&D player as well. He's a good sniper, and they've had a bit of luck online in terms of cups so far. I mean, we've seen everybody seems to be winning these bloody online tournaments at the moment, so it's hard to really read on that one. But I think they'll be okay. I think they've got a really good chance of qualifying for Pro League, in my opinion. I think they'll be okay. I think they want to prove a lot of people wrong after what happened last year with this team. I don't want to blame Reedy so much for that because he came into a bad situation, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think Hoki and Vortex are much better than what we've seen from them last year. I mean, Vortex, I'll say this about him because I know him very well, but he was basically a bot for most of the year. And I can only imagine that he'll do better. We know he's capable of more, and I think that Epsilon team just...
No, he was superb in Infinite Warfare, and Hawkeye was a monster in Black Ops 3. It was crazy. Honestly, I kind of feel like Dave knew to an extent that he was going to be out of the team. I don't know. Yeah. I'm excited to see him on a team other than these guys. It had to happen eventually. I hope these lot do well.
Yeah, so do I. I'm really rooting for them. Quickly, let's move over to Team Sweden, or Quicker's team, which is Defrag, Moose, Nelson, Quick, and Wee Man. I think they've got an outside shot of making Pro League, actually.
I mean, they had that crazy run at Champs.
Yeah.
Oh god, that was so mental when someone made it out of that pool in first. And then just unsurprisingly fell flat on their face, I guess. But it's a solid team. I want to see some more out of Nolson, because he didn't really get much of a spotlight in World War II.
No.
But we talked about him a lot, like a fair bit in Black Ops 3, being on the Hyper Games team, and then Infinite Warfare. Like he was on the Infuse team that come top 12s at Champs, right?
Yeah,
I think so. So like definitely some solid pedigree here. It's tough for me to differentiate between a lot of these teams, but these guys did have that success at Champs, and it does make me pretty confident in these guys actually.
Yeah, let's see how they do. There's also Dareal's team in there: Benji, Dareal, Enduro, Mols, and Xerox. A bit of a continental team there from the inside. We've seen it happen before, where there's a couple of French guys coming with a couple of English guys, and it's never really worked. So I worry about this team. Although I really like Dareal and Enduro on this team, and Benji's a good player too. I just don't know how much I think this team's going to work.
That never seems to have a good effect. It never seems to work out well. Wasn't it the Vitality team, like trying to qualify for stage 2 with Marky B and Whalers and that? Or that wasn't pretty.
No.
We should also talk about Morks' team. I've just noticed that. Because so this is Havoc, Maniac or Major Maniac, Morks, Naga, and Spacely. So it was Spacely, Morks, and Maniac. They came top 8 at champs, right, on Elevate.
Yes.
Or I think it was those three.
Yeah.
And they're bringing in Naga and Havoc. So, I mean, this is really interesting because people always make fun of Spacely, but he honestly was unbelievable at champs. Like, legitimately was one of the best events I've ever seen out of him. And they've obviously, from that performance, they've got enough pro points here to make it into the league. Havoc has done literally nothing since like the end of Infinite Warfare.
Yeah.
I don't really know what's been going on with him, but I want to see something, right? Because he's a similar player to, I guess, Royalty, where they had their breakout in Advanced Warfare because he clutched that crazy 1v4, and then people talking about him. Black Ops 3 was that pretty big streamer, and then he disappears off the face of the earth. So
yeah, I think he maybe just didn't have a good year last year. Like a lot of people didn't. I think there's I mean, you can say it from the top to the bottom. You teams like Optic, who just as a whole didn't have a good year, and then you got guys like that who didn't have good years. It's interesting to see how they do. One more team I want to talk about is Brain's team. So this is Brain, Cammy, Dylan, Niall, and Zerg. Now, they just about make it to get through to that last chance qualifier. We know Dylan will look really, really good on that Brash team, which was with Daryl and co. They've got no outside shot of making pools, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think they could have a good chance at it. It's really tough to gauge these guys because they've been up and down over the last couple of years, always kind of on the fringe. And, you know, they either need someone like Dylan to just be a monster or they need some kind of better leadership. I don't know. I think together
Brain has that leadership.
Yeah, Brain can kind of do it. He was on Giants for a bit, right? So I guess he was with Toho over there, so maybe didn't need to do as much. But yeah, these guys have definitely been around a while. It's really tough to separate a lot of the European teams in this mix. But
I think we'll end it there because, to be honest with me, to be honest with you, I should say it's a very, very competitive area, isn't it? You look at
crazy.
What from 11 on this list that we're looking at here. So it's that Mad Cat's team, Rumored team for God RX, Panda, Parasite, Evil Geniuses, Mind Freak, Tainted Minds, Reedy's team, Daryl's team, Quickest team, Spoof's team. We've got Morx's team, Brain's team. There's plenty of teams in and around there.
Yeah, and then
It's
Heretics
very
just
tight.
outside.
Yeah,
that
Enigma
had some
6.
great results. Like both at Heretics and Enigma 6, they both made pools.
Yeah.
So it's only the fact that they're picking up these young guns in Mentals and Frosty respectively that they're not making this qualifier. Otherwise, you'd expect them to be there. So I guess some of the European teams can count the lucky stars. But maybe it won't pay off in the long run. Who knows?
Yeah, we will see. Well, Rab, thank you very, very much for coming.
No problem at all. I'm sure I'll return the favor.
Yeah. I'll be coming over to your show. I'll leave Rab's YouTube and Twitter in the description below as well. Thank you very much for coming on. And guys, thank you very, very much for watching as well. Please leave a like on the video. Subscribe if you can as well. It means the world to us here at the European Gaming League if you do so. And we will see you guys on the next video.